Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all gathered up today for this presentation titled Why Embedded Analytics is the Future of Decision Making. We appreciate you having taken the time of your precious morning to be here, and we are hoping that in the next 45 minutes, this session will be interesting and relevant for you. My name is Minosh Salam, and I head DataQraft as the Director of Business and Strategy. With me today, I have Zachary Rea, who is the Director of Sales Engineering at Microstrategy Middle East. He would be doing the keynote presentation for the day today. There's no doubt that data is changing the way business operates, and we may call it advanced analytics, data science, machine learning, or AI is everywhere and is making radical impact on our everyday lives. Computers are now understanding the patterns in our everyday behaviors and are making customized recommendations and predictions. Things like Alexa, Google Maps, online bookings, which we've been doing with Noon or Amazon, they're all powered by data science. Credit card fraud detection based on your spending habits and locations, customized movies and show predictions, and all major streaming services, or automated facial recognition and tagging on social media, etc., are all examples of how data science have changed our everyday lives. And one thing is clear, data analytics and data science is making huge impacts for those organizations that are able to embrace and improve their products and services. But the key to the success is being able to obtain, manage, and process large volumes of data. But then, organizations do have their own challenges too. They're struggling with data from legacy and other reporting systems. So how can they ever expect to handle 1,000 times more data, which is kind of exponentially growing on a daily basis, and from more sources coming in every milliseconds? Most companies find their data scientists spend somewhere between 20 to 30% of their time just searching for getting access to and exploring data that's spread across your source systems, data lakes, data warehouses, data marts, etc., etc. Then those teams spend another 40 to 50% of their time cleaning up and processing that raw data. And 80% of data scientists' time is spent wrangling data and not actually building the training models. And finally, when they get to building those models, those tools are often outdated or require proprietary data formats and are not optimized to deal with data stored in specific ecosystems so that it can be more efficient. Now, this is where we at DataQraft and organizations and partners like MicroStrategy come in and have a role to play. So at DataQraft, what we are doing is we are bringing in best-in-class data and advanced analytics platforms and solutions to help organizations derive deeper and faster insights from varied and complex data sources. We have been doing this for the past 5 years now with over 100 projects. We are spread across geographically in over 6 cities across 3 countries, though we have been doing projects around the region. We have a team of over 50 professionals, ranging right from data architects, data scientists, big data experts, engineers, analysts, and BI developers. So what do we do at DataQraft? Today, data is available everywhere, and the magnitude and richness, it has the potential for any businesses to grow. But the challenge lies in creating value out of this data, and that is very complex and daunting. At DataQraft, we are attempting to bridge this gap between the organization's data strategy and business strategy so that data drives decision-making across the entire value chain of an organization. We eventually help organizations manage the full data and analytics lifecycle, from data integration, data storage, data migration, management, business intelligence, and by harnessing the power of machine learning and AI, so that we can eventually bring in value to and insights to the business. And we cannot do this with a singular platform or application. We do this with leading data and analytics platforms like Snowflake, Informatica, Alteryx, Click, TalkWalker, DataRobo, Talent, and of course, MicroStrategy. So in today's session, we will show you how HyperIntelligence is the new approach to data and analytics. Whether you're browsing the web, checking your email in Outlook, or running to a meeting with your mobile device, HyperIntelligence probably could be a possible way to deliver contextual insights and answers. So in this session, you would discover how HyperIntelligence is bringing analytics to more people than ever before and transforming the way people across enterprises make decisions. You will discover how embedded analytics is the fastest way to infuse data and analytics to increase user adoption across your enterprises and make intelligent, actionable insights. So we seem to have a lot of attendees now, and I think we are almost ready to start our key presentation. So we got, I think, over 30, 40 participants across the region. I think there are as far as Egypt. Before I hand the screen to Zach, some minor notes on the platform itself. We are hoping that we can all see my screen and hear me well. We are kept all on mute during the session so that we don't have any interruptions, but we will definitely entertain questions. You can post them on the Q&A session, which you find on the left top corner, and we'll address the questions toward the end of the sessions. Lastly, I encourage you to go full screen so that the visuals will have the clarity you require. So with that, let me hand over the presentation to Zach Rea from MicroStrategy. Zach, can you hear me well? And shall I hand over?
Yeah, thank you, Minosh. You can hear me as well, right?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm going to make you a presenter, so please bear with me. And there you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Cool. So again, thanks from my side for joining. As Minosh introduced, I'm the Director for Sales Engineering for the MEA region. I've been with MicroStrategy for about 10 years now. So I've been in our headquarters in the US and near Washington, DC in Tyson's Corner. I've been in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, working with Facebook, Netflix, eBay, all the fun companies out there. And I've been in the region for about 4 years now. But enough about me. Let's talk more about MicroStrategy and about HyperIntelligence. So an introduction to MicroStrategy for anyone who does not know who we are is we're actually pioneers in the BI space. So we've been innovating for 30 years, which brings into a number of different things that you've seen over the years. So as business intelligence and analytics and getting your insights and data into, as Minosh said, actionable insights has grown, so have we. So we were pioneers into web-based dashboards. We were the first ones to bring BI to the mobile space. When the iPad came out, we actually had an application already developed for it. We had grid reports on BlackBerry devices, and people said, oh, this will never be important, right? In 2014, we started moving our things into the cloud, and we're very rapidly becoming a cloud-first company in a lot of ways. Not that we will ever leave behind our on-premise solutions. You actually don't lose anything, whether it's on cloud or on-premise. Then, of course, sprinkling in that AI, machine learning type of thing. But what I really want to talk about is the hyper-intelligence part that we've first introduced in 2019, and customers have been getting some real value out of, and we've really been maturing over the past 2 years here. And it's really a new paradigm. So we have this history, right? And what it really brings to the table now out of MicroStrategy is kind of two ways of accessing your data and and getting insights from your data for your users. And the first is that core business intelligence. And I think most people on the call probably know about BI, right? You've seen dashboards, whether it's a mobile application, whether it's on the web, various different things. We have areas of that we're that we quite differentiate around the things like security, things like governance across all of your dashboards and all of your applications, stuff like this, because we come from a very enterprise foundation that we then have modern solutions that we put on top of this, right? But what I want to focus on today is more this hyper-intelligence, which is really a new paradigm for how you can access data, how you can get your information out to the users to actually get this where at the point of decision making that they're doing, whether that might be email or systems they're already using like their CRM or ERP or something like this, right? Or even on the mobile device. But actually getting this data so easy that it's without people asking for it, it's automatically available for them. For people that don't even want to open up a dashboard, right? And I'll get more into this, and I'm sure you're wondering, what is Zach talking about here, right? But let me first start by why we developed this and kind of the thought that goes behind it. There's an independent analyst firm that went out and did a study of organizations, and they found that even organizations that are actually consider themselves very advanced on the analytics side, they fail to surpass 30%. So you really see like 10 to 30% of adoption in organizations for analytics and information and insights and data-driven decisions, right? When you start to get to the kind of real-time decisions, like, hey, I've got this email in, I need to make a decision right away, it tends to be a lot less, right? Because you don't have time to go open up an app or something, and you just need to make a decision. Often goes on gut feel. So we looked at this, we said that's not enough, right? Dashboards are great, but why aren't they really surpassing this mark? What's preventing us from reaching out to the broader workforce beyond just executives and analysts and things like this who tend to have this type of information and insights? Because our motto is really intelligence everywhere, and so we don't want to have this just stuck at the top or stuck with the people diving into data every day. We want to get this data and these insights and information so you can make informed decisions out to everyone. And what we really found is there's three major reasons that kind of keep people from doing this, and they're all interconnected. It really it's that people are busy, right? So you might build the most beautiful dashboard or mobile application that's so information rich that you can get so much value out of in order to run your business, whether you're a relationship manager, whether you're a store manager, whether you're a insurance underwriter, whether you're anyone, right? But the fact is people don't have time to go and open up a new application. People are busy. They have so much to do in a day. You don't have time to go searching for information. And because of this, they often don't have the skill to actually navigate these applications. Even if they're super simple and easy, they haven't had the time to really learn them. So they don't have the skill to go through them. So it's just another kind of roadblock in their everyday life. And then the inclination goes with that as well. Hey, I'm super busy. I don't know how to use this, so I don't want to. I have so much to do already. I've got 1,000 things coming in. They're all super important. I need to go ahead and decide what to do on each of them. And so that leads to these decisions lacking data and lacking the information to make oftentimes the right decision, right? Maybe a lot of the times you can go on gut feel and be correct, but a lot of the times you can't, right? A lot of the times a little information in there would make that a lot better, right? And if you look at the systems that people use, they might be in Excel, they might be in email, they might be on something like Salesforce or their CRM or on a dashboard in particular, or even your own websites or your own HTML applications or whatever, right? And this is where people are doing their everyday jobs. So this is where if you're going to make information-driven decisions, you need to have that information in these places, right? It's like your comfort zone, right? I work on Salesforce all the time. It's also my comfort zone. I know how to navigate it. I'm using it every day. But what if I needed something from our support system or from our marketing system or from all these other systems? I would need to go in and log into those and get that information. So most of the time I'm not going to. What if that was injected into Salesforce, right? Now it becomes a lot more powerful. And this is what I'll start to shape for you is how we can inject this information into the places that people are already working, into the systems that they're already using, right? And we thought about what is the best solution for this, and we thought about, is a dashboard the best solution? Dashboards are great, right? I love dashboards. I've been working with them for 15 years now, right? And I love them, but are they the best solution for everything? And I tend to argue that maybe not. So if you look at this is a map of the London Underground, of the tube, and this is and this is, if you think about it, a dashboard, right? So if I can figure out where to go anywhere in London from this dashboard. I can get from Piccadilly Square to the airport. I can get anywhere that I want to go by looking on this, finding the point, looking at the line, and seeing where I need to go. But is this the experience I want all the time? If two trains are coming at the same time and I need to decide which one to board, is this what I really want if I'm new to London and I don't know how to read this? If I do know how to read this, it's great. But if I don't know, I probably want something a little bit easier. And how technology has advanced, people expect something a little bit easier as well. This is more the experience that people expect, right? Is turn left on this street, board this train, make this decision, do this thing. And that's what we thought about. Hey, we need to make something that's equally as easy as something like this from your Apple Watch or from Google Maps or from whatever, right? And that's what we thought about with HyperIntelligence. So HyperIntelligence is really a new paradigm of how to get insights and how to make informed decisions. And it's been called the most innovative thing in the past couple of years in our space, right? So it's actually these KPI cards. So if you see them here, it's taking a dashboard and making it so simple that the most important information is available for you in the card format. So, we didn't invent the concept of a card, right? But we really are inventing the concept of using this card to have only the most important information you need to make your decision, and embedding that into the systems that you're already using. So this actually matches on keywords, whether it's on any web-based application, whether it's on Outlook, whether it's on a mobile device, and it brings up, based off of that pattern matching, the information that you put in this card. So I'll give a couple of examples of this as well. It could be, and it's all things on the things that matter to you, right? So it might be on your customers. So we as Microstrategy use this, and many of our customers also use this to look at their customers, whether it's their key enterprise customers, or even down to the lowest level of individuals, right? It could be on particular accounts, it could be on different activities, it could be on your places, your products, it could be on marketing campaigns, it could be on stores, it could be on regions, it could be on anything, right? And it brings to life the information based out of these kind of intelligent KPI cards, I might call them. And the way I think about this as well is I think about it, if we were meeting in person, what I might give you is a business card, right? And if you ever needed to get in touch with me, then you could. You had all the most important information about Zach. You could reach out to me, and that's all you need. What I wouldn't give you is a printout of my LinkedIn profile. That's not what you want. You don't want to sift through that and search for the information. You just want the most important information you need to make that next best decision. And this is what HyperIntelligence really brings to you, right? But the power of it is twofold. First, it's in the simplicity, because if you make something so simple, then anyone can use it. The problem with analytics adoption a lot of the time is that, like I was talking about, that time, that inclination, that skill, people are busy and they don't have time to learn how to navigate through a dashboard or a mobile application or something like that. But what they can do is, if a card is automatically popped up in the system that they're already working, that's embedded already there and has information, and they just look at it, and now they automatically know this information. Get that information out, that anyone can do it. So now you can really expand beyond those who are really data-driven people, like I think a lot of us on the call probably are, and expand that out to touch people that would never be making data-driven decisions before. It seems too simple, right? And I always say that's what they said about Apple, which usually gets a laugh. But the other aspect of it is that what's going into it, right? So the simplicity and being able to use it is one, but the amount of data coming in to power that card is really the power of that. So MicroStrategy, as I mentioned, we have a enterprise foundation. And so we can connect to whatever data sources that you have. We can bring those together. We have clients in the region that on one HyperCard have 15 different data sources going into this, and then surface that up so you get a holistic view of whatever topic you're trying to get information on. So now, rather than having to log into 4, 5, 15 different systems, you have all that information, and it's already available for you where you're already working. So you don't even have to open one additional system or one mobile app or anything. It's there, bringing all of that together, so you really get that holistic view. And that's really the power, right? Is the simplicity and the amount of data that's being brought together in that simple design. The security space and the robustness of our security model, and this applies to HyperCards as well, right? So it's not something where you just push out this card and everyone in the world can see it. You can set it up to have login credentials. It can match in with your enterprise systems for authentication and such. And you can really define this, right? So if I am not allowed to see a HyperCard, I do not even know that it exists. If I am not allowed to see data in a particular HyperCard I do not know exists. So all of this is also controlled, and this is something that goes through the entire MicroStrategy platform. And as I mentioned, there's really 3 flavors of HyperCards, right? That you can have. So it might be HyperIntelligence on the web browser, HyperIntelligence on a mobile device, or HyperIntelligence in Outlook. And I hope you guys can all hear me. I'm getting a few messages that the sound is going in and out. So I'll try to sit still. I was kind of walking around a bit. That might have been the problem. I apologize. But do let me know if I do go a bit in and out. So anyway, so there's 3 real flavors that I'll talk about of where you can embed HyperIntelligence. And I wanted to do this not just with slides and videos, but by showing you an actual demo, right? So if I look here on my web browser in this case, and actually and you can see over here I have a plugin. And so this is my HyperIntelligence plugin. On this side, it's disabled because I actually have this embedded, which I'll get into. But here I have access to all of my different cards, and it makes it available on any web browser that I might have. Again, also on Outlook or on mobile device. But you can see here I have a number of different things that are undefined. And this is what HyperIntelligence does. So if you remember, I mentioned that it does pattern matching based off of what you define. It can have different synonyms, whatever. And so this is where it actually goes in, and in this case, MSTR. So it's picking up on MicroStrategy or maybe on Oracle, and it brings up the most important information to display on that, right? So it scans the website, it looks, it sees Apple. Okay, well, we have a HyperCard for Apple, we have data for Apple, and in this case, it's giving all the information on the stocks and stuff like this, right? But this could be anything. I think this is just to introduce it, a really good example, and mind you, this is just a demo environment, but it actually is a real live working HyperIntelligence instance on top of a demo environment. So this is Salesforce, and I mentioned before that I use Salesforce as well. And so I think a good way to talk about this is from my own personal experience. So I was working with one of our major clients in the region, and you can see here we've got one HyperCard on the account, right? That's pulling data from the account. We've got it on the actual employee, so I could have stuff coming from our employee system, on the actual product or on the opportunity, right? And so all these things are available in Salesforce, pulling from multiple different systems. So for me, this made a difference because I was working with one of our key accounts, and someone actually came in as a new contact on the account, right? And I didn't know who they were, but I hovered over and I saw a HyperCard, and it showed our customer contact HyperCard. And I saw it was a new BI director. So for me, this is pretty interesting, an important person, right? And so I then looked and I saw they opened up a support case. And this is information now coming from our support system, right? A different system. And I can see the case was open for 3 hours and they hadn't had a response, and I would expect us to have a bit better response time there. So I hovered over and I saw the support engineer in charge of it. And it was actually someone who'd only been with the company for about 2 months, right? So a pretty new employee. And this information is coming from our HR system, right? So also another system. And so directly from this, I'm actually able to reach out, because if you see, we have links here that are also embedded. So I might be able to reach out to Howard Burns here directly through email. They can be really launch pads into other activities, and I'll talk a bit more about this. But in our case, it was for Slack. We use Slack internally for communication. So I was able to reach out, see who the manager was directly from the HyperCard, reach out to the manager, and just ask that we get an extra set of eyes and give our customer the experience that they expect from our MicroStrategy support, right? So throughout this whole thing, I'm bringing together like 4 systems, all without having to leave Salesforce, which I'm already using to do my job every day, right? And that's the real power that comes in, is when you have a question, when you have something that you need to know, what if you have all of the intelligence immediately there embedded in the systems that you're already using? Over time, what are people using in their everyday lives, right? So a lot of it is business applications, whether it's your CRM, your ERP, or whether it's websites. Maybe it's you're even going to a competitor website to compare your marketing stuff, or maybe you're working in Excel or whatever. But you get a varying amount of intelligence through these various applications, depending on what you're using. And then as organizations grow, right, then they start to maybe add business intelligence on top of this, right, that can then tie together some of these sources and bring more intelligence to you, right? But again, as I mentioned, you really only get to that 30% maybe max as to the amount of data-driven decisions and intelligence you're getting out throughout the organization. And this is what we really see and what our customers are seeing as HyperIntelligence solving, is filling in the gap of all of these and supercharging all those applications. So bringing those insights into the business applications people are already using, or into the BI tools that people are already using. So for us, we don't look to necessarily compete with other BI tools. We look to supercharge them and enhance the investments that you might have already made, right? And this goes for any application. From you get an email in, you might have 4 different things that people are asking about. Well, what if it's matching on the keywords and you have a different hypercard for each thing? So maybe you're a relationship manager. You want to get a holistic view of the customer, see what tickets they have open, see if they have a renewal coming up, all these different things. You have to go in and log into 4 different systems, 5 different systems, 15 different systems, and probably you would kind of not even get that information to make your next decision of how to answer that email, right? Whereas now you can. It's easily there. It's automatically available. So on mobile, it's also really nice because it matches up with things like your calendar. So I use it all the time because every time I go into a meeting, I see who is on there. I pull up a hypercard on who they are. If it's a particular project or something, I get information on that project, or a particular region. I see what are the stats of the region, right? So it matches up with your calendar, also with your search. So you can actually search for hypercards, which I think is a really powerful thing. Because if I think about how I use mobile applications, right? If I need to use my telco mobile app to pay my bills or something like that, I don't know where it is. Even on my laptop, I don't know where things are anymore because searching is so common. I just type in what I want to look for and it shows up. And that's the same thing you can do with Hyper. You can search for any, whether it's a store, whether it's a customer, whether it's a SKU, you can just search for it and the HyperCard with that information will come up, right? So again, it matches with your search, alerts, calendar, and it's also available offline as well, which makes a huge difference. And a really interesting use case too is we actually can match this in with things like QR scanning. So maybe if you're looking at your inventory or something like that, you just want to scan over something and then you get a hypercard with the most important information about it. So you don't have to navigate through a dashboard or something like that. You actually have the most important information. You have a launchpad to order new inventory or something like that. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. There's a number of insights in 3 key areas. Is one, making all of your applications you already use smarter. But then faster action. So you've heard me talk about launch pads and links and stuff like this, and this is what they actually provide. So it's zero-click intelligence and one-click actions to do things. So as I just mentioned, maybe you're looking at an inventory item and you want to order more. Well, you can do that directly from the HyperCard. You can click on the order now, and it can actually go through a workflow to do that automatically for you for that particular product. Or you could do review a quote or approve a loan or any number of things that you want to do directly from the HyperCard. And all that's going to be on trusted, governed, secure information. So here's an example of the Launchpad, right? So this is going to be adding someone to a marketing campaign that we're pulling up just from an email. You can automate it as much or as little as you want. In this case, we want to give a little bit of granularity to automatically push through the person's name, but really have that second step of approval as well, right? And so really powerful how you can take this to the next level, and something our customers had requested from us. And so it's something that they saw as a lot of value. Also, when you think about many things that you might be doing on the data side, whether it's with DataQraft or, they were mentioning that they work with, say, DataRobot, right? Which is also a really great partner of Microstrategy. And so you can take things that you might be doing on the AI machine learning front, but the end of that is how do you surface that up for business people to easily understand it and easily consume it? And HyperCards is oftentimes the answer. So you can get all the power of that AI now surfaced up so easy anyone can understand it in the systems that they're already using, and that becomes super powerful. So easy to build HyperCards. Here's just a quick introduction. It's the easiest thing that in analytics space, in my opinion, to build. You have over here your data set on the left-hand side. Over here, we're pulling a couple of templates. So we have some pre-built templates that you can customize. Now we're dragging, in this case, the store ID. So you saw we dragged that, and that's what's going to match on the data, right? So now in this case, whatever data you have for a store ID, or it could be the store name, because we can do different synonyms and stuff like this. That's what it's going to actually look for on your emails or your web applications or your mobile device to match up those pattern words and to bring up the HyperCards, right? Here's adding in something like the link. We have a number of things pre-configured. You could have your own customized ones. You can drag in different attributes, metrics, dimensions, and stuff like that in order to get all the key information that you need, right? And really quickly, I wanted to touch on one customer use case, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit about where we're going, and I think that'll give you guys a good introduction to HyperIntelligence. So Sonic Automotive is one of my favorite use cases. We have a number within the region as well, but I really like to talk about Sonic Automotive because of what they've been doing, and also how early they got into the HyperIntelligence space. So they are actually a car dealership. They're a Fortune 500 company based out of the US. And they auction on used cars, but they don't have much time to do this, right? They have 10 to 15 seconds to kind of make a decision on whether they want to bid on a car. And they have to use this auction website, and they can't customize it, right? So now what they do is they have HyperIntelligence on top of this. So it automatically brings in details of how many cars of this they have, what's the price that they should actually buy it at, and they have them color-coded to let them automatically know whether they should bid at a certain price point on these various cars, right? And it makes them so much more intelligent, and they can make these decisions in a matter of 2 to 3 to 5 seconds, right? And it's been so successful and made the team such champions within the organization that now they're rolling this out to things like call centers, right? Where also time is money, and people need to have that information at their fingertips and not go looking for it, right? For both efficiency and customer experience. And it's a really awesome use case, right? And I wanted to have this to segue into a couple of things that are coming in the HyperIntelligence space here as well. Just two key kind of updates, right? Here's a safe harbor notice. Again, this is futures. But this is coming out in the next month or so. So I probably don't even need to show this, but for legality's sake, I will. The first is then this color code matching. And I like to have this with the Sonic Automotive use case, because I mentioned they have different color coded cards, depending on whether they should or should not buy, right? Or whether it's up to the person, red, yellow, green type of thing. And we looked at this and we said, hey, you guys are creating separate cards with different colors based off of what it should be. But that's too much overhead for you. We could actually optimize this and make it threshold dependent. So now, depending on whether you should buy or not buy, you automatically see it color coded on the application itself from the HyperCard and from the underlining aspect. And this is something that I like. I mean, it's a cool feature. It's something that a customer I was meeting with just yesterday said, hey, you guys introduced this to me a year ago. The two things that I brought up, one of them was, can you do thresholds on hypercards? I said, absolutely, thank you for bringing it up. But it's also a really good showcase of how we really partner with our customers and make sure they're successful and make sure we're updating our product for their success. And the other is, and the same customer yesterday said, the other thing that we wanted was, the plugins are great, but what about these applications we have, web-based applications that we don't necessarily run on the browser and outside of our email and stuff like that? What do you have for this? And we said, awesome. This has also been a huge customer request, something that we brought in. And this is some Hyper SDK. So you can actually have these, which is a small snippet of code embedded into your websites. And it is really small. I mean, you can kind of see it on the screen here. I think it's smaller than a tic-tac-toe game I coded in university, right? And now you can have this embedded into any application that you might want, or you could still use the things like the plugin and stuff like that I mentioned, right? So that's an introduction to embedding that intelligence with HyperIntelligence, with MicroStrategy and DataQraft. So I wanted to open it up on the question side to see if there were any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Yeah, like I said before, you have a Q&A tab on the left-hand side of your screen, so you're free to post in your questions there. I know we had very limited time, so we are trying to show as much as possible in that short period of time. But if you have any questions, please feel free to do them now. So I see some questions coming up, Zach. One of them is, does HyperCard support in real-time intelligence?
Yeah, definitely. So the power of them is being powered by the MicroStrategy backend and bringing together all those different data sources, and that's absolutely something you can do in real time. So you can have that be as fast as having it come in whenever your ETL is updated, automatically updating the data sources, or even streaming it in real time through like Kafka or something like that, right? So absolutely, you can power those as quickly as you need to get the information that's important and relevant at that time. Again, it's all about agility and having that right information when you need it, and so absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So can I use HyperCards for any internal systems? For example, can I connect HyperIntelligence onto my regular ERPs or line of business applications?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it really is any web-based application. So if you're using it on, say, a browser, then you could go ahead and just use a plugin, which is going to go across all of your applications and match on that. But again, it's the kind of the last point that I touched on is that Hyper SDK that we introduced. Whereas now, even if you don't have something that runs on a browser, and setting aside things like the mobile and email, which I think are great use cases, but now you can actually embed that the HyperCard specific thing into either one particular website that you might have, or into your specific applications that don't run on a browser as well with any HTML, Java type things, right?
So, Zach, are you saying that for a large organization, you have all these different applications, you can just put in the front layer in terms of HyperCards? Is there a lot to do before we get to a stage where it's so simple and simplified for a common user? Is it a lot to do before we get there? Hi, Zach, can you hear me? Zach, we can't hear you. Zach? Zach, we can't hear you. Zach, we can't hear you. Okay, you're back on.
You're back on. I'm back on now? Okay, good.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
But absolutely, this is something that the customers also say to me, is how can it be so easy? Like, where's the catch? And then when we actually go in and show them, they find that there's not a catch, right? I think I was at a customer one time. They're like, well, okay, we have this information in our data. We want to get these insights of Hyper. How long does it take? I was like, well, probably take maybe 10 minutes or so to build something. I said, well, can you show me? And then we actually reached out and we built a HyperCard for them in 2 minutes. So it is that simple. Now, mind you, if all of your data and everything is a complete mess, then some of that's going to need to be sorted, which is where DataQraft can come in and really help you on that side. But once you kind of have a bit of that sorted, and you don't need to sort everything, but once you have a bit of structure around that, then the HyperCards themselves are, as I mentioned, it can take 2 minutes to build and deploy out.
I lost you there. I think you got a choppy connection.
I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's the Wi-Fi here.
Yeah, you're back on. You're back on. Great.
Okay. How much of that did you get? Any of it?
Yeah. No, I think it's okay. I think we have, let's make this interactive. I think there are a few more questions coming up, which means there is some interest here. Khalid was asking, what HyperIntelligence would you recommend for a marketing app where users can come and purchase media touch points like billboards, TV, or radio spots? Can HyperIntelligence play a role in that, Zach?
Yeah, definitely. We have a media company, Aristocrat, that actually uses HyperCards, and they use us to manage their campaigns. So they can see each campaign, what's the effectiveness of it, and then who do they need to reach out to from that. You can also have a link to do a deeper analysis as to maybe some different upsell and stuff like that's coming from some cross demographic information or whatever. But all of that can really be supplied. So if anyone's emailing you asking you about the campaign, instead of having to log into a couple of different systems that hope maybe you track it, maybe you don't. I tend to find that at many organizations it's harder to get to this information than you might expect. But what if it's just there for you automatically, right? And so that's just one use case I'm thinking of off the top of my head that I've seen one of our customers doing.
Right. Great. I have another question from Anas. He's asking, if we set up the desktop version, do we need to reset up the HyperCard? I think that's a deeper technical question.
So if you're talking about MicroStrategy as a whole, so MicroStrategy, the HyperIntelligence side, you can build with our desktop client workstation, which you can also build things like dashboards and stuff like that. But it's automatically going to, once you build the HyperCard, it's automatically available to users wherever you want it to be. So we build one HyperCard, and it's available on your web applications, on the SDK that you might set up, automatically on your email, and on your mobile device. So you don't need multiple versions of a HyperCard to deploy out. Once you build it one time, it's available for everyone, as long as you give them like the security and the access, right? And because you want to have control over that.
Right. So I just want to add to that. So from a commercial standpoint, for a large organization, if you have to go and kind of give this kind of HyperCards to a large group of users, could be sales guys or people on the field and so on, would that be an expensive proposition? I know it's a little bit of a commercial question too, but I just want to hear from you on that.
No, it's not. And actually, the easiest point of entry, if you guys, and I actually should have had something on this as my last slide in retrospect, is we've introduced a SaaS offering of HyperIntelligence. It's called Hyper.now. So if you go to the MicroStrategy website, you can actually try this out for free and give HyperIntelligence a go. And this is going to be completely SaaS. You don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure or anything like that. Of course, you can have this as part of our enterprise solution as well. But this is $10 per user per month, right? Which is, I think, a very reasonable price point for the amount of value that we're seeing our customers get.
Oh, yeah. So that's the kind of true democratization of data. That's really good. Another question I have here, does it support NLP?
Yeah, so it's whatever you have going through that MicroStrategy system in the backend. So if you might have noticed on, say, the data robot integration, right? It's also going through the AI, and at the bottom it had a recommended next best action, and that's coming through like a NLP and NLG type of thing. So all of these things can be integrated, and the power of having that enterprise BI system and integrating with whatever systems you might also have, and then surfacing that up in the super easy to consume HyperCard, right? And that really is the powers, is having that full Ferrari engine behind it. And then it's just making it so easy that anyone can, like riding a bike in the front hand, right?
Right. I have another question, which says, we talked about embedded analytics, and looks like every other vendor is talking about pretty much the same thing. How would this proposition from MicroStrategy be different?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at embedded intelligence, right? What other vendors are talking about is maybe embedding dashboards and visualizations and stuff like this, which MicroStrategy can do, and we have some major differentiating aspects about that, which is why we have hundreds of, say, OEM customers and stuff like that, because of how we can automate things like security and the governance and adding new users and stuff like this, right? And that does differentiate us in that space, but really that is still embedding dashboards onto your website, or maybe through APIs, getting the data out into your chatbots and stuff like this, right? HyperIntelligence is different. HyperIntelligence isn't embedding your dashboards. It's not using just the APIs. It's actually taking these HyperCards and automatically putting them into the systems that people are already using through this plugin. So it's automatically embedding. You don't have to. I mentioned at the end we have that Hyper SDK. So yeah, there's going to be applications for that. But the beauty is you don't actually have to do any SDK or even put an iframe or anything in, because through the plugin it's going to automatically embed this intelligence into your email, automatically embed it onto any web-based application. And a lot of the times it's bringing this intelligence into applications that you wouldn't be able to do embedded intelligence otherwise, right? Because a lot of the times you don't have the option to go in and actually do the SDK and embed anything into it, right? And you don't want to mess up the UI that people are familiar with. I use Salesforce as an example. We use Salesforce. I don't want people going in and changing the complete UI and covering it in dashboards, right? Because I know my workflows and I know how to use it. But now if we can embed it with HyperCard, so it's just overlaid on top of that and you get the intelligence, it's a huge difference maker.
Right. Yeah, I think that is all for today. I'm just seeing if there are any more questions there. Yeah, I think I have one more here. I think people are wanting to know if this is really being used in the region here. Are there customers you could quote as references who have been using this in real time?
Yeah, so I mean, I can give general references, right? I don't know that I can use the customer names, but one of the largest banks in the UAE is using HyperCards. They actually had a really awesome mobile application for the relationship manager. But to my point of adoption, like the people that used it got a ton of value out of it, but most people didn't even want to open up an app. They had so many decisions to make. They have a ton of emails coming in and they just need to figure out how to answer these email, right? So they introduced HyperCards for the relationship managers on all the key customer information and stuff like that. So every time that they get, say, an email in or something like this, they have all the key information that they need to do for that, right? One of the big telcos as well is not just using us for their enterprise business and customers, but also are using us for almost like a data lineage HyperCard. So for the business, if they have a question on any KPI or something that's presented, they can actually see a description about this in any system that they might have. They can see who the data owner is and stuff like that. So an interesting kind of different take on it as well. We've got a big energy company in the region that's looking at doing scaling that's starting with 10,000 employee hypercards and scaling that up to 40,000, right? Which absolutely we can do. So they can actually have information on each and every employee and vendor and stuff like this that they need whenever they need that information. So it's a couple of examples within the region, and we are seeing a lot of uptake as well, but those are just some off the top of my head. Like I said, I don't know that I can use their names, and so I don't want to cross any borders I shouldn't do, but a couple of examples, and definitely.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think yeah, we can for those who have asked some of those questions, we can definitely come back to you one-to-one and give you references, probably relevant references for your industry. We could do that. Yeah, I think that's all.
Use cases
Yeah.
we're seeing globally as well, Minosh. I mean, so if you guys reach out and want to know, get a little bit of ideation for your industry of what even globally and regionally people are looking at from a hypercard perspective, I'm more than happy to start giving you some ideas and talking through how this can make a difference, because it really does, honestly. It seems so simple, but it's so powerful.
Great. Any final note, Zach, before we start wrapping up?
No, thanks, Minosh and the entire DataQraft team. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been awesome. Thanks for all the questions, and there's so many webinars now that I know that people's engagement isn't always as high as it has been in the past. So I really appreciate it. Awesome.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot, Zach. I think that session was interesting. I wish we had a little more time with you, probably on a later session. We know we could deep dive into the application itself. So for people who have attended I know some of you probably would have missed the initial part of the session, and I think there was some technical issues, but we'll definitely send out the presentations across to you. We will send you the links for the webinar. Again, thanks a lot for joining in, and we are hoping to see you soon again. We have more of this kind of presentations coming up. I'm sure some of you have already subscribed to it. So thanks a lot again. Thanks a lot to everyone who has joined in today. Thank you. Bye-bye.